Berry is the brand new brawler coming in the July update of Brawl Stars, and today I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know about Berry. From the 1v1 interactions to tests and comparisons, all the info on him, as well as my opinion and the thoughts of pro players about him, if he's going to be any good or not.
Just sounds broken to me.
Berry is an epic support brawler that is part of the Candyland trio with Chester and Mandy as a worker selling ice cream. Although according to his description and his voice lines, he doesn't seem to enjoy the job very much.
Great, time for more humiliation.
At power level 11, Berry has 5,000 hit points, which for a thrower is pretty average. For his main shot, he throws an ice cream cone a short distance that deals 1,320 damage upon impact and then stays on the ground for 6 full seconds, dealing the same damage every second that you stand in it. That main shot, however, does not have much range. As we see, it is the shortest of all of the throwers, despite it dealing only slightly more damage than one singular tick mine. However, that shot can do more than just deal damage, because if you throw it at your teammates or at your own feet, it will heal for 660 per second for 6 seconds. Additionally, the shots will also charge your super, which there are some tricks I'm going to show you later in this video that you can do to make use of that. For Berry's super, he launches himself forward quite a ways, spinning like Carl while dealing 3,040 damage to anyone in his path. This super also leaves behind a trail of ice cream, which again will also deal damage or healing. This super, however, cannot pass over water or over gaps, but it is a very good ability. His movement speed is normal. However, what's not normal is how slow his reload speed is. Now, from the frame where he throws his first shot right here, it takes him over 8 seconds to unload and reload all 3 shots. If you compare that to one of the faster reloading brawlers like Edgar, you can see the massive difference, as Edgar does the same thing in under 3 seconds. And even brawlers like Mortis, who have always had a very slow reload speed, Berry is even slower, and this is a huge weakness. However, it can be overcome somewhat by using his first star power called Floor is Fine. With this star power equipped, and while Berry is standing in his own ice cream, his reload speed is increased by 50%, which he desperately needs. Now, if he's standing in his ice cream, this cuts his unload and reload speed down to 6 seconds, which is still a little bit on the slow side, but it's manageable. However, you can opt for his second star power called Making a Mess. With this, Berry's normal shot will deal 20% extra damage upon impact, or just the first initial tick of damage, but it's only if it hits an area where there's already no ice cream. So that means it gives him an extra 164 damage for 1 tick, and only if the ground is clean of shots. So yeah, to me, the first star power is just vastly better. However, both of his gadgets are very useful and in different ways. The first one is called Friendship is Great, which seems like a My Little Pony reference.
My little pony, my little pony.
With this, Berry will swing his tail, knocking back enemies, as well as healing himself and any nearby teammates for 1,000 hit points. His second gadget is called Healthy Additives, and with this, when activated, his next shot will last double the amount of time before fading. So that means you hit your gadget, you throw your shot, and for the next 12 seconds, that shot will stay on the ground, allowing it to deal damage or heal yourself or a teammate. So both of his gadgets are good and can be chosen for different styles of play and or situations. Now, as far as gears go, on release, Berry does not have any epic or mythic gears, just the standard ones. So I put Berry 1v1 versus every brawler in base level interactions, just like normal, but we're not going to cover every single one of them. Let me give you a breakdown of how it all went. So I used his reload star power and placed him close to his enemy so that he could make use of it while still damaging his opponent. And although he is just a thrower and a support brawler, he won or tied 34 of the 81 interactions, which gives him a 41.9% win rate. And honestly, for a low health thrower, that's pretty respectable. Some brawlers he was able to win against pretty easily were ones like Poco, Penny, Rico, and Colette. And before you comment anything, yes, I realized I misspelled heroes, but you're still a hero to me if you use code LEX. Now, a fun little bit about the Colette interaction. Berry can actually just heal himself through Colette's damage, and without her super, she can never kill him. Now, there were some really close moments too, like against Rosa. Yes, even toe-to-toe with Rosa, Berry's healing was able to make the match actually really close. With Nani, it was incredibly close as well. However, there were some ones here where he just gets annihilated. Like, of course, any tank destroys him up close as they just laugh at his healing. And that goes for brawlers like Shelly or Griff as well. Dynamite was also able to win with his superior damage. Basically, any brawler that was able to 3-shot Berry, they would win. If he could last past the first 3 shots, then his healing would start to ramp up enough to at least give him a shot at winning. But those are just base level interactions to give you an understanding of what could happen if everything was equal, which of course it rarely is. I also wanted to test out Berry in a few different things to see how he compares to some other brawlers. Now, first off, I wanted to see how good or bad he is at sustained damage. So I put him against the Robo in the training cave, and it took him a full 36 seconds to kill the boss, which means his damage was around 2,700 DPS, and that is with all of his abilities being used. If you compare that to brawlers like Crow, Hank, or Colette, who kill the boss in mere seconds, you start to see he's not the strongest. However, he's not the bottom of the heap as well, because there are brawlers with less damage like Poco, who took almost 1 minute and 45 seconds. So while he's still a little bit on the lower side, he is not the worst at sustained damage. And since he is a support brawler and he helps others survive, you would probably guess that he would do well in a survivability test. And yeah, you'd be right. Versus the little shooter bot in the cave, he cannot be killed. He doesn't need a gadget, he doesn't need his super, he can literally just stand there and heal through the damage and never die. And then the last comparison is opening Showdown Power Cube boxes. I set up 8 of them, and since his shots stay on the ground a long time and they can actually hit all these boxes at once, he does really well here. I mean, it's not as fast as some brawlers like BB or Frank, but it is vastly better than other brawlers like Piper or Crow. This is good for him, and it bodes very well for him ramping up quick in Showdown. Although I think duos will be a vastly better mode for him than solos, but I'll give you grades on him for every mode near the end of the video. Now, as you can see, there are moments where Berry shines, as well as moments where he struggles quite a bit, and I'm going to give you my overall thoughts on him, as well as I had some pro players chime in on him as well, but there's still actually a little bit more to see. Berry releases with one skin available called Dark Horse Berry. Now, the animations are the same as his base model, so it's just a recolor, but the skin is a lower price one, and I think the model does look pretty cool. He's got some tattoos, he loves his mom. That's wholesome. One thing I wasn't expecting, though, was his voice lines. Here are a few of my favorites.
The sound of salty tears brings sweetness to my ears. Time to turn that frown further down. My candy is not for kids.
Okay, so the question remains, how good will Berry be, and what game modes is he going to excel at? Well, before I tell you my opinion, here's some pros telling you what they thought of Berry.
I think Berry is going to be very, very strong.
Lex, I think Berry is going to be absolutely insane.
Easily top 5, main reason being because his main attack lasts for 6 seconds. That's a lot of aerial denial.
Super that gets away from assassins, heals your teammates, and a thrower.
The fact that you can do 10% damage to a safe or 12%, whatever it is insane.
It's got a knockback gadget for a throw, which is insane. 2 things that are pretty much unheard of with throwers.
And the super is just nuts. I think Berry's probably going to be the best brawler in the game.
The only thing that's stopping him from being game-breaking broken is that his main attack doesn't stack, but everything leads for me to think that he's going to be an insane brawler.
Just sounds broken to me.
As for what I think, well, let's look at the good, the bad, and the ugly of Berry's ability. For the good, we have to talk about his super. It is by far his best ability in his arsenal. It deals a lot of instant damage, as well as it leaves lingering damage and healing. You can use it to confirm a kill, but you can also use it to get away from bad situations, like an Edgar jumping on you. Related to that is how easy you can charge up his super. You can heal yourself, a teammate, or deal damage like normal, and all of these things charge up your super, so you should be able to use the best part of his kit quite frequently, which is actually really awesome and much needed. Now, another huge positive is how long his shots stay on the ground. 6 seconds is a very long time to have a shot last. That makes it so that he can zone areas very effectively, or even give himself or teammates a passive healing that lasts quite a while. His gadgets are also great, and both can be used in different ways, but both work very well. From a defensive gadget to one that makes his shot last a very long time. However, that brings us to the bad. While yes, his shot does last a long time, the damage it deals is rather trivial. Between brawlers getting beefier, shield gears, and other healing abilities, it's just not scary to run across an ice cream puddle and take 1300 damage. So his effectiveness in dealing damage outside of his super, which really just puts him in harm's way, is pretty darn weak. The next negative is that his reload speed, without having a very certain star power and standing in his own shot, is really slow, and that hurts. But the fact that his shots last so long counteract needing to throw as many shots, so you just gotta make each shot count. Now for the ugly. His second star power is just total garbage. Don't use it, don't buy it. That is, unless they buff it. The tiny bit of damage that you gain, and only in certain conditions, is just not worth missing out on the ability to buff your reload speed, which he desperately needs. And the last ugly thing here is his range. His range is just not far enough. It's effectively the same distance as Dynamite, but it only deals a fraction of the damage. And yes, it stays there for a long time, but it's just not enough damage to warrant such a short range. Now, as for where you should play him, let's take a look at which game modes he's going to do well in and which ones he will probably struggle. Solo Showdown is going to be tough because any assassin is going to have their way with you, especially if you don't have your super. Although, you can walk into the smoke and then heal yourself back up and build up your super without engaging anyone, so that's actually fun, but I'd say that Solo Showdown is a mode that you would want to avoid with Berry. Duos, however, I think that he complements a teammate quite nicely. Is he going to be like super strong? Probably not, but I don't see why you couldn't do well here. In Gym Grab, it's really going to depend on if the map works for throwers, but if it does, then he'll probably be alright. That being said, other throwers are probably going to be a stronger pick, but I could see some strategies where throwing your shots and helping heal like an aggressive brawler on your team, that could work. As for Bounty and Wipeout, no. Just no. You're going to get outranged, outgunned, and targeted by assassins. Now, you could just play it very passively where you throw shots, heal up your teammates, gather your super, and then go in and try to get a kill. But if you do that, unless you're really selective, you're probably going to end up trading. So in Bounty, there's probably worse picks, but he's not going to be great here. Now, Heist is a tough one because while your damage is really low, it does last a long time. Combine that with a gadget and you can deal 24% of the safe damage with just 3 shots. As well as you can stop all the access points to your safe with a shot that lasts so long. To succeed, you'll have to be slow and work your way up, but if you can get to the safe, then you're going to do good. Brawl Ball is also going to be pretty map dependent, but I actually don't hate him here. He can use his super to make some really good plays. He can use his knockback to get the ball out of other brawlers' hands, as well as use his shots to close down choke points. He is going to be lacking on defense, but I think that if the map is okay for a thrower, then yeah, why not? And then probably his best game mode is going to be Hot Zone. This is because his shots last so long in the zone, they provide healing, as well as it can be gadgeted to last 12 seconds, choking brawlers down even further, and his super can be used just to paint a zone. So yeah, as long as the map isn't wide open, then he is a good pick for Hot Zone. So how good do I think Berry's going to be? Well, my first gut reaction was that he actually felt weak, and while yes, he is weak in some areas, his versatility with his healing, his long-lasting shots, combined with a really good super, make him a brawler that is going to be very annoying to play against, and unless you can get to him, he is going to be a menace. Then again, I'm just playing bots in the dev build, so I could be completely wrong. It's happened before.